Me, Swami Bibi Nemi. Been talking about the conscious faculties and how they're manifested by an inconceivable energy which is real but it's non-physical. Now, deeper than the conscious faculties, there's the conscious coordinating self, the conscious self who coordinates these conscious faculties. And according to the Vedic viewpoint, this is also not produced by physical interactions. The conscious self is, the Atma, is an eternal, non-physical, real non-physical, conscious entity. It's conscious, it's consciousness, and it's possessed of personal self-existence, non-temporal personal self-existence. It's not affected by time. And knowledge, and bliss, fulfillment, satisfaction, happiness. These are the three fundamental characteristic qualities of this Jiv, or Atma. But in material, according to the Vedic viewpoint, in material consciousness, it gets covered over, our pure consciousness gets covered over, and we identify with the material world around us and think that we're products of matter, although we're obviously not, because matter's always changing, and the I-ness doesn't change. I was 5, I was 10, I was 15, I was 20, so something doesn't change. And that something is non-temporal, so it's not material. But we forget that. When I was in Sweden, a friend of mine told me a Swedish folk story. So 10 country people came to a river, and they were carrying a big tub of butter to the market. So they came to the river, they crossed over the river in a boat, and when they got to the other side, they said, well, let's count up and make sure that everyone got over safely. So one person counted, he said, there's only 9 of us. And the next person counted, he said, you're right, there are only 9. But they looked around, they couldn't see who was missing. So in the end, one of them said, look, I've got an idea. We'll all stick our noses in the butter. So they all stuck their noses in the butter, and then they counted the marks in the butter, and sure enough, there were 10 marks. So then they knew, okay, we're all here. So my friend Ingvar, he said, I think it'd be best if the scientists had a pot of butter in the laboratory, and every morning they stuck their nose in it just to make sure that they know that they really exist. So, why should we think that the self, conscious self, is a real entity and not just some illusion? Well, first of all, I've been talking about the coordination of conscious faculties. So it takes place, and it's also part of the scientific process. And if you try to deny the existence of the self, then it comes back and bites you in the backside, because you have to use the coordinating self to orient your brain, or orient your mind and your perception and so on, to communicate your skepticism. Common understanding is that we exist. We have the same passport, the same social security number if you have one, throughout our lives. If we talk to our parents, they'll tell us about, how we were even before we were born. We can't remember, but they see that we're the same person. And that's the general assumption in society. If you do something good, then you're rewarded, even 10 or 20 years later. And if you do something bad, you may be punished 10 or 20 years later. So it's the same person. That's common understanding. Scientists agree. Many scientists have commented on this one. Erwin Schrödinger, he says, so in brief, we do not belong to this material world that science constructs.